Here they are. Here we are. That's the one. So I actually have two copies of this. One I got when it was released, and then one, and that was signed at a comic book convention that I wish that I had been at, but some friends of mine got it for me. Mark Waid, Mike Wieringo, and Carl Kessel all signing it. So this comic came out in October of 2002. At that time, there had been one Fantastic Four movie made. It had not been released. If you don't know the story of the 90s Fantastic Four movie, totally should check that out because it's pretty interesting story. Since then, 3 movies have come out, and none of them have been particularly good. And there's been a lot of talk. I've seen online, but I've also, engaged in on how to actually fix a Fantastic Four movie if someone were to do it again. And it occurs to me that this comic has basically all the answers for us. As background, in the comic, the Fantastic Four is a public superhero team. They don't have secret identities. They are who they are. People know who they are. They know where they live. They live in the Baxter Building. And they have a marketing wing. And they have action figures of themselves. And they have a comic book of themselves published by Marvel Comics. And so so there's this whole marketing thing going along with their team. And so they deal with things a little bit differently than the normal superhero team. Sales of the real life comic book had waned over the years, and they did this comic book. They sold it for 9 cents as kind of a way to boost sales, and it worked. But the ironic thing is everything they did in this comic book, the movies have done the exact opposite thing, except that this worked and the movies didn't. And so I wanted to go back to this to see if we could learn something about why this worked and that didn't. In the comic book, the fake Marvel comic book company is trying to figure out a way to boost sales of the Fantastic Four comic book, and so they send somebody to hang out with the Fantastic Four to basically see what makes them tick, to try to figure out what what made everybody love this team years ago, but now no one likes them anymore, and they've kind of fallen out of favor. And I want to read part of what he found out toward the end. These guys aren't superheroes. Not really. They don't fight crime. They don't go on patrol. They don't have a bat signal. They're astronauts. They're envoys, adventurers, explorers. Sure, Galactus comes to town, they'll step up, but that's not the job it just comes with. Maybe they've been around a while, but the only thing old about the FF is that they never stop taking us into the new. It should be noted that the comic book actually ends like this, with Reed putting his daughter to bed. There's no supervillain that they fight. In the course of the comic, they go on a bunch of small adventures with this guy and just show him all the weird stuff they do that no one ever hears of because it's in alternate dimensions and in outer space. None of it is really fighting supervillains. None of it's fighting crime. And so what this comic was trying to do was to point out what makes the Fantastic Four different than the other superhero teams. And that thing that makes them unique is actually the really cool thing about them. that they're a family. I mean, Reed and Sue have children, and it affects their lives. These children, it's not like Clint in the new Avengers movies and Captain America, where children are mentioned and they show up in a scene, but it doesn't, everybody's surprised when we first find that out. These guys are parents. They have to deal with kind of the day-to-day operations of being adventurers, of being parents, of being the heads of a very large corporation, of being inventors, of doing all of this stuff, and of being very public figures. That's what the comic is about. And yeah, when Galactus comes to town, they bring it. That's not the thing that makes them unique. Ironically, the movies have reacted kind of in the same way that the fictional comic book company did. Make it new, make it flashy, change the uniforms. And they think that that's going to work. They think, okay, well, we've seen the superhero formula of lasers and lights flashing and all that stuff, and they're not understanding that the flashing lights don't make the movie great. It's the character behind it, and that's true with all of them. And when we don't have the heart of the team in there, we don't have a good movie. And when you're casting, okay, we can go through a number of people to make this point, but let's just go with the two movies from a while back. When you're casting Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, I wonder if you've ever actually read the comic. Because, okay, she was popular in that day, but she's not Sue Storm. And so you've already started things off wrong, because you're trying to change the character to fit your formula. The Fantastic Four is never going to fit your formula. That's not the type of team they are. So I don't want to make this video about all the problems with it. There's certainly a number of problems, but I want to kind of present what I would do as a solution. And my solution would be to basically make this into a movie. Now, these 22 pages are not going to fill out the entire plot, but they're going to provide for us a good outline. So the fact that we've had 4 pretty bad movies actually provides us a good starting point, because we can start it at a fictional movie studio that has failed 4 times to make Fantastic Four, but has the movie rights and wants to try again. So they send somebody to the FF to figure out what would make it right, and then that guy follows them on this adventure. And I wouldn't make it into the typical superhero adventure where at the end we're facing off with Dr. Doom or Galactus or whoever. I would make it an adventure, not an action film. But I would take more from the old sea adventures. I take more from like Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans than I would modern superhero movies. But then I would take all of the cool science fiction special effects things we have now and set them off into space to see what they can find. And look, if you want to lay down foundations for Dr. Doom and Galactus along the way, that's fine. I'd say that actually the only thing that really worked in the Green Lantern movie was Sinestro, and we spent the whole movie like setting up Sinestro to be played out later, and it never was. But that, was a shame, because that was actually really good. The rest of the movie was not very good. But if you want to do that in the background, that's fine, but leave it in the background. Make this about the family. Make this about them dealing with everyday life. Make this about them going into the unknown. And look, along the way, have them tested to the limit. My concern with the battles is I don't think that it should be, Batman fighting against Superman in this climactic battle. I don't think that it It should be, Captain America against Red Skull. I think it should be more akin to Odysseus and the Cyclops. That sort of old-fashioned sea adventure where you're going into the unknown and you got to figure it out and get out of it. That's what I would love to see. And I would like to see it in the hands of filmmakers who are not scared to end it like that. Instead of the giant battle, to end it with the family. Now, whether that movie makes, $200 million, I don't know. I'd go see it, and I haven't been, excited about a Fantastic Four movie in a long time. I'll tell you, though, this comic got me so excited about Fantastic Four, I bought the comics for years after it. I bought Mark Waid comics for decades after it, because these 22 pages introduced me to the characters above the plot, above the bad guy, above the action. And I felt so connected with these guys that I wanted to keep going with them. And I think that if somebody is looking at Fantastic Four film, it's worth a try, because the approach you've taken now 4 times, it doesn't work. And so it might be worth doing something a little bit more unique, a little bit more outside of the superhero formula, something that sets them apart. Now after this, after a few issues, Mark Waid then did what I consider probably to be the best Doom comic that I've ever read. And so that is not to say that we can't get to the supervillain. Mark Waid did it very, very well. But Mark Waid had his priorities right. He got to the heart first, and then he got to the battle. And that's the thing that I think we've been missing. We've been such in a hurry to retell the origin story that we've now told 3 times out of 4 movies. And then we've gotten so anxious to get over to Doctor Doom that we forgot to actually care about these guys. So let me know what you think in the comments. Be interested in y'all's feedback. If there are any producers in Hollywood that work for whoever owns the rights to the movie now or will in the future and wants to hire me as a consultant, let me just say this: I will do 2 jobs for the price of 1 if you need to hire me as the Thing. It's clobbering time!